I call this morning meeting to order. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Roll call. Oh, okay. We're good then.
Oh, I was gonna blow.
There, everybody's attendance. Everybody's here.
Everybody is here.
Then we're good.
So the next, we're moving on to item 4. That'd be approval of the agenda.
Move it.
Or
Oh, we got a member.
All right, so-
addition.
I move that we add item 9C.
Thank you.
okay. So I have a motion and a support. And then I would like to say from now on at this committee, if all supporting documents aren't uploaded 24 hours prior to the meeting, that item will be struck from the agenda. So I don't know about the other board members in this committee. However, I need at a minimum 24 hours to read and research each agenda item because that's what I do. So as the chair, admin, I will not accept any 9:50 PM updates on the agenda again. So I have a motion and a support. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
point of order.
Okay.
I think under Robert's rules, you have to ask for changes to the agenda.
Okay. So to change the, oh, yes, the next morning at the meeting. Yeah, to strike those items.
No, additions or changes are allowed under Robert's rules if the committee agrees.
Okay.
So,
All right. That's fine. However, do the
I
board
understand the
members
point.
agree that they should have ample time in which to study the items on the agenda? Or do you just want to rubber stamp it and just go with it?
no, I agree with you that we should have 24 hours. I agree with that 100%. However, you still have to,
Point noted.
okay.
Point noted. Yes, Commissioner Christensen.
I was just going to reiterate the fact of, I agree with what you say. If there's a last minute that needs to be added in, worst case, can we just table it? Because I agree, we need to have time. I don't want to go into something blind and just say, oh, sure, let's approve it, or say no, when we need the details. It's not good to, we need to be transparent.
Well, it gets back to ensuring that the commissioners have ample time in which to review the packet. Because if they don't, and they come to the board meeting and they say, well, this is the first time I've seen it, because I sit in a lot of meetings when something gets brought up and the commissioner around this half moon says, well, this is the first time I've seen it. That's unacceptable. And I hope that their voters hold them accountable. But unfortunately, you probably won't.
Commissioner Barrett?
Yes, Commissioner.
Typically, it's called the consent agenda. If you're going to put that in there, under the consent agenda, you can vote to approve the consent agenda. Make sure all your action items are under that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Okay, any more discussion on that? Okay, seeing none. Moving on to approval of the minutes.
Move the minutes as written.
All right,
Support.
I got a motion and support for the minutes. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Seeing none, it move. All right, we're on to item number 6, which is limited public comment. Excuse me. If there's anybody in the public that would like to come and give a comment, please keep it within 3 minutes. Do I have any members? Seeing no movement in the gallery, I take it we have no public comment. Moving on to item number 7, which is agency reporting. First one is Health and Rehabilitation Service. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Martha Richard from the Medical Care Facility. Regarding agency reporting requirements, just to update the allocation that we receive each year. The allocation this year, $150,000, which was consistent with the prior 4 years. Year to date, we've received 2 allocations totaling $75,000. That $75,000 covers our maintenance of effort, which is a requirement by statute for the county medical care facility. The MOE expense paid by the facility last year totaled $159,651, which exceeded the amount allocated by the county by just under $10,000. This year, we budgeted $166,000 for maintenance of effort. That's based on our Medicaid days. We have seen an increase in our Medicaid days as we brought back units that were offline through COVID. That's why there's an increase in the MOE expense. So that will exceed the allocation for this year by $16,000. Year to date, 90% of the residents, patients served lived in Eaton County. We employ 339 staff members, and 69% of our workforce reside in Eaton County. Year to date, how many are benefiting from funding? Year to date, that's 282 residents, patients, 234 staff members that live in Eaton County, and countless family members. Annual budget for the facility this year is just over $24 million. Our fund balance as of 3/31 is just over $6.3 million. We are now initiating the recapture of the $1.8 million estimated cost settlement from 2023, which has been anticipated. Are there any questions around that before I move into our financial commentary? Sure.
Commissioner.
I would just like to comment that I'm happy that our beds are being filled mostly at a 90% rate over there with Eaton County residents. So we are definitely serving our public.
Thank you, Jeannie. We definitely are, and we actually are close to resuming our waiting list, which we had prior to COVID. So we really are getting in a much better position.
Good.
Year to date, our occupancy is right around 87.1%. That's averaging about 124 residents per day, which is consistent from the prior year. Our payer mix, Medicaid, which is our primary payer, that's our charge as a county medical care facility to take care of those who don't have the funds to take care of themselves. It's 70.56%. Our skilled services, which is our rehab facility, where we accept Medicare and Medicare Advantage, that's 17.48%. Our private pay percentage is 11.42%, and insurance is 0.54%. Operating activity considerations. Thankfully, with our fund balance, we're able to reinvest in the facility. Our initial project for the facility was in 2003. So there are many things on our roadmap that we need to replace, including our HVAC units. We've begun that project. So you will see our cash balance begin to decrease, but that's anticipated. A strategic plan with the board and myself to work on those initiatives to ensure that the building has the infrastructure it needs to support the residents for years to come. Our financial audit this year commenced and completed. No management letter comments or any deficiencies were noted. We filed our cost report data for Medicaid and Medicare, and that's how we receive our reimbursement. Our LPN apprenticeship program, currently we have 6 apprentices nearing the completion of their program. So it ends in May. They're eligible to test for their NCLEX in June. So that means once they pass the program, pass their licensure, we will have 8 LPNs that have gone through our program, and we've already selected the candidates for our 3rd cohort, which begins in August of 2026. So it's a very successful program. Our annual survey just completed. We had excellent results. We had 3 minor opportunities. The national average for the number of identified concerns is 9 for skilled facilities. For our quality measures and staffing rating, we're a 5-star. And lastly, for the second year in a row, we've been awarded America's Best Nursing Home by Newsweek. So the facility's been doing, and the staff, just an amazing job. Do I have any questions?
I do. Of those 6, you got the 6 apprentices, so you've had 8 total go through the program. I don't recall if you mentioned this at an earlier meeting, but do they have like a 1 year or something? Do they have a requirement to stay with your facility, or?
They do. We ask that they stay with us for 2 years.
Okay, 2 years?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, we're actively vetting our RN apprenticeship program. I think I may have mentioned that during the last session. Still looking for a community college. As I stated, these are very innovative programs. So community colleges are hesitant to jump on board. West Shore is our partner, and they are working on an RN apprenticeship. I'm not sure if it'll be up this year, but I do anticipate that it will be next year.
Good, good. I think this is a very good program.
It's wonderful for the community in general, not
All
just
right,
the
I
facility.
totally agree, totally agree. Any commissioner have any other comments? Wow, seeing none, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
All right, moving on to item B, that would be landfill report. Chad? You're gonna come up and tell me?
I'm going to come up and tell you that, good morning, first of all, commissioners. Our county landfill, the reclaimed landfill that was closed back in the 80s, just north of Potterville, it's about a 120-acre site it's adjacent directly to the east of Fox Park. Part of the requirements on our behalf are to test twice annually for groundwater sampling and PFAS. That occurred last month. I expect to get the report back later this week or early next week, so that's why it's not in your packet. But I wanted to give a report just because it's on the agenda, and a lot of times I'll have the third party come up and speak on that. We just did that last year, so because the report wasn't ready, we didn't do that this year. But I have spoke with them. All the PFAS tested below all the allowable levels, so it's just kind of same as before. We continue to monitor, and so how that works is we have a third party that does the testing, and then it goes to State of Michigan Eagle Labs for review, and then they're the ones that determine the allowable, where we sit as far as our sampling and allowable levels. So that's about it for that. Is there any questions?
Yes, Commissioner Toomey.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, will that third party that we use, that we contract with to do the testing, will they be in next month then to go over that report?
I can have them, sure.
That's up to the chair, but I just want to make sure, I just like to make sure, quick report, make sure it's not expanding, which it sounds like it's not, but I just want to keep a close eye on it.
Yeah, originally I was gonna, because they do it again in September, I was gonna have them come in the fall, but if you want, we can do it next month.
Yeah, I just want to see, or if we can have the document in here, like I
Yeah.
said, I just want to make sure that I know it's within allowable levels, but just want to make sure that we don't have anything coming in the future. So, thank you.
Commissioner DeRosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Chad.
Morning.
Thank you for being here in your free report. That testing also includes testing of the swamp area to the west and to our ponds at the park, doesn't it?
I will have to get an answer for you, and I don't think they specifically test the water at the ponds. It's just, we have monitor wells around the perimeter of the landfill, and that's where they take their samplings from. And if there are any seeps that they find, they sample those as well.
So we're relatively certain that it's not leaching into our water in the park and close by, and it's not affecting the neighbors' wells or any of that stuff.
Correct, and that's the whole idea and reason that the state requires that testing.
Right. All right, thank you. I appreciate it.
One last thing, and I could mention about the landfill, unrelated to the sampling, but the company that's doing the high-powered line from Oneida to wherever it terminates, reached out to me about the possibility of using that as an access across the old landfill. So more to come on that. There would be, Just very preliminary, but I believe there's some financial incentives if they cross your property, but that just happened in the last week or so, so I referred them to our landfill expert to get all the details of that, so I just wanted to report that.
Yes, Commissioner Toomey.
Are you talking about ITC?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool, thank you.
Are you talking that, are they going to put one of the poles or whatever you call those things on our property?
That was the possibility, what they were inquiring about was would that be an option for routing? Obviously, they can't do it over the top of the landfill, but
I was
possibly.
just gonna say, that's what I was worried
The
about.
thought was that they could span it from one side to the other outside of the landfill cap. But again, I'm just reporting because they approached me. It's very preliminary. There'll be a lot more discussions on that before we approve that.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Oh, yes, admin?
Yeah, hey, thank you, thank you. I was just going to say that this is done in coordination with Eagle as well, so for residents that live nearby, just know if Eagle wants additional testing, they'll ask for it. In fact, that's the reason for the delay this time, so it's just in terms of the monitoring wells around it and then any bodies of water nearby. Just don't do it in a vacuum, so, yep.
Okay. Seeing no others. Thank you very much, Chad.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to number 8, construction codes.
Good morning, everybody.
Morning.
We're moving along. Things are picking up from spring, getting several permits in right now, so that's good. We got some bigger projects, getting ready to start over by Grand Ledge, so. Other than that, unless you guys have any questions on the building side of it, I'll move on to the next one, which is body worn camera policy. I've been working with the IT department and the admin office, putting together that policy. I know that the cameras have been ordered. I am not sure when they're gonna be in. I don't know if the controllers knows.
No, not at this time, but once we have it, we'll report it, so if we know by ways or full board,
Yeah.
we'll let you guys know.
So I can tell you that my staff is, I'll use the word excited, to have them, to help protect all of us as well as everybody we see. So, that's all I have on body worn cameras. Do you guys have any questions on the policy that we've started?
Seeing none, you can go.
I would just know that it will go out for our attorney to review it.
Yes. The soil erosion and construction code fees, I received 2 quotes. We called a third company, but they no longer do that work. So, my plan is to go with Munivate. The construction code was $9,500 for that. The soil erosion's gonna be $4,500. I have those funds in my account for this year's budget. So I'll be paying for that. We'll get that started. As soon as I call them and get the contract signed, they said it'd be no more than 8 weeks to get that fee schedule back.
This will go to Ways for final approval.
So because it's out of his existing budget, he won't have to do a budget amendment, so he'll be paying for it out of contractual services. But we'll have the discussion at Ways, but he just won't need authorization because he's using his existing line.
Well, what was moved earlier was for them to explore this option. So
Oh, it was just an
at this
exploration.
point, he's saying he's got the revenue, and then that would mean that we would vote right now to take that away from the drain office and move it over to construction codes, is what you're asking me to do, right? Or what?
No,
asking-
definitely not. So so they would do the fee schedule assessments, then they would come back to this body and say, here's what we got from the consultant, then
this-
this body. And even if we didn't make the decision to move that work, you could still use the fee schedule analysis that's gonna be done and tell Richard and the drain office, we wanna use this as opposed to the one that you had proposed. So today is not about the future of that work, today is just about
Okay.
getting the analysis by an independent party.
Okay, then I pose this question. Why does the construction codes pay for the whole fee schedule study?
Doesn't have to, I guess, but.
I mean, because we haven't decided if we're gonna pull it out of the drain commission anyways, right? So we're sort of in a limbo there, but now we're saying, hey, we might pull this out of drain commission and give this to you, but hey, pay for this fee study.
It's,
So technically, it's not fair to construction codes because it's,
No, and I'll be honest, I volunteered to set this up and pay for the fee study. I just felt that to get a third party, and they'll do an analysis of all the surrounding areas, and it'll be a better
agree.
vision for what we're looking at.
For the citizens and the and
Yes.
people who want to do business in the county.
Absolutely,
Yes,
absolutely.
totally agree.
okay. If needed, we can look at if, either out of my office or out of the drain office, if they have $4,500, I think that was the amount for.
Yeah, and
Soil erosion
I
specifically.
don't mind paying for it out of my money, and this is up to you guys, obviously. And if you decide to leave the soil erosion with the drain office, they can pay me back, if that's what you guys want to do.
And this fee scale study is also going to look at yours?
Yes.
I just got a question. Why didn't we do this prior to you making that fee schedule and us approving it and then figuring out that that probably wasn't the most accurate thing? Because I know there was commissioners that asked the question about those fees and you told us that they were spot on and then here we are
Yeah, and
6 months
and
later.
we did it ourselves. And as I sat down with the controller's office and we started discussing the drain fees and stuff. I'll be honest, it just popped into my head to see if there was anybody out there that would do these studies.
Well, can you see where the frustration from
Yes.
our constituents are coming from?
Yep.
I mean, not being very, businesslike, but we look like a clown show.
No, I agree. And this one is totally on me.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna
I agree.
say anything else.
I agree.
Administratively, my recommendation going forward is anytime we do a fee schedule like this, it may cost $4,000 or $9,000, but it's probably worth the investment to just have a third party do it. One, you're not putting more detail work on staff, and we're short-staffed, many of our offices, but the other thing is you even take out the hint or concern that, well, you shouldn't be coming up with your own numbers, et cetera. So anyway, that's
well-
the value going forward, I think. The last
Well-
time we did one was 2004, but I think as we approach it, that'll be a recommendation from us for our.
Yeah, but we were in a position where we were cutting a budget.
Yeah.
And then a department redoes their fees. And the people outside this room had a valid argument saying that they raised their fees to the extent which they did to save their positions, to ensure that they had funding so they could fund their positions. That was a valid argument, right? Because now here we are 6 months later going, maybe we went a little too high. I'm just saying, right? Because I'm going to just tell you, for the last 2 weeks, I don't know what's got in the public over the last 2 weeks, but I've heard more from the public in the last 2 weeks about all this than I've heard for the whole last year, right? So,
I just want you to know administratively agree as well. So that's, and for the members of the public too. Like,
Okay.
that's why going forward, that's going to be our recommendation. If it's a department that reports to the controller administrator, that's going to be the direction that we'll look for and bring to you.
yep.
Mr. Chair,
Yes, yes.
I'll just make a comment. This is how government should work, because if we make a mistake, or if we made a decision that kind of leads down a wrong road, the public comes to us, say, hey, we don't like that, this is government being responsible. So
Totally agree.
I get your point, but I think this is us doing the right thing and doing it quickly. So
Agree. I was just, verbalizing some frustration from the rural parts of this county. How about that? Okay, so what we need to do is we need to move this, that he continues, well, we move this to the ways, right? Or he doesn't have to do a budget amendment, so we just move to tell him to do it.
Yep, just a policy initiative, move him to do it, and then
Okay.
bring back the fee schedules when they're complete here.
Okay, so do I have a motion? I'll move it. All right, I got a motion and support over there. Any further discussion on this?
Yeah, I want to say, I agree with Chairman Mott that when things need to be changed, they just need to be changed. It doesn't look like a clown show to me. It looks like further information was gathered, and therefore we have a change that needs to be made.
Well, I'm glad. There we go. Commissioner
Thank you,
DeRosa.
Mr. Chair. Chris, so just for clarification, how will this work in conjunction with the Drain Commission then?
How, what,
Well, what kind of cooperation are we going to have between the Drain Commission and your department on using the soil erosion data?
yeah, they'll have focal, I mean, I'll give them all the information, what the controller's office, you know, if the soil erosion stays with the drain office, they're gonna have all that information, and then it'll be up to you guys in the controller's office to decide how to move forward with their fees.
Okay, so essentially then, what you establish here may not necessarily be the same as what the Drain Commission's going to charge.
It's just gonna give them a guideline of what the surrounding areas, how they charge for their soil erosion. It's gonna be the same thing for the construction code when I get that fee study back. It's just showing where that company, after all their research, believes we should be at with our fees.
Okay,
Final decision will fall with the board.
all right, thank you.
Yep.
Go ahead.
I just wanted to add to that. So I think this is a unique area because the soil erosion ordinance is actually a county ordinance, and it's one of the reasons why that work has the option to be done out of construction codes. So historically, we've been having that work done in the drain office, but it's not one of those areas where the board doesn't have final say over how that's structured, which is why that fee schedule had to come to you all for review. So conceivably, if the board wanted to adopt that, they could adopt that. If that makes sense. I know there's a lot of drain work where you don't have final say and final approval, and that's the reason it's a little bit different than the other statutory elements that come out of the drain office.
Thank you, Ben.
Yeah.
All right, so we have a motion and support on the floor. Any further discussion? I guess not. They're discussing it amongst themselves. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none. All right. Moving on to change of conditions, fee
I
waiver.
will have Ms. Miller come up and do these last two items. Thank you, you
Very
guys.
Thank you very much, Chris.
Good morning. It's nice to see everybody. Before you is a request to waive the fee for the Crandall Park change of conditions application. Crandall Park is proposing to do some pretty exciting things that will have to go before the Planning Commission for another change of conditions. The reason for the request for the fee waiver is it really doesn't make sense to transfer money from one department to the other when we're all on the same accounts. So it would be our desire to waive the fee for the parks to apply for their required change of conditions.
Commissioner Toomey.
How much is the fee?
$800.
Okay.
All right, I got a motion and support. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Hearing none? We agree. Your next, or is that you gonna give the update?
Both, maybe?
Which one of you is giving the update on the planning?
That would be what
I guess that'd be Administrator
We
Ben.
had a town hall meeting with all locals, so we invited township supervisors, city officials, and villages to come in on the 30th. It was a very good discussion. We asked them for an update because historically, we've had planning and zoning, but we are transitioning to that back to the locals. So their update to us, I think it was 7 townships that are teaming up, that are doing their ordinance. They're at the point where they've got everything drafted, they've met their deadlines. The ordinance has gone out to each local to independently authorize so that it can come back and then be the joint planning commission. So they believe that they will be in position with an ordinance that would give them the authority to do that. And then a few of the townships not participating that were there said that they thought that they were also on the trajectory to be covered by June 30.
June 30th.
Is Jason Ball supporting that group of 7 then?
I believe helping any of them. Yeah, so we've made the resources available to try and coordinate, but a lot of them are having to work directly with their own attorneys to make sure that everything is above par, which is good. So that's the main thing, is they take over the responsibility, the liability, the compliance, all of that is going to rest with them. So as much as possible, this has been an effort on theirs, because they will have to answer if, for some reason, their plan isn't in compliance. Yeah.
Commissioner Gross.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Along that line, this topic has come up at least one of my townships, and that is the issue of code enforcement officer and trying to secure someone for that position. And I'm assuming that once this is in place, the townships will be pretty much consistent across the board as far as their ordinances. So the question is there someone or an agency out there that offers that service of code enforcement?
So I think Oneida has their own officer. A lot of these communities probably won't be able to pay for a full-time code enforcement. That was one of the benefits of having a county plan, was you got your biggest bang for your buck because you could have one code enforcement officer that was able to do all of them. But I think for the joint planning, they're probably going to have to explore probably contracting with a private party to perform that work, or multiple communities come together, but that'll be on them to figure out their path. But you're not wrong. Filling those positions are hard because the people with that expertise, they're very mobile, so they can move between communities. We've been lucky to have had the stability of consistent staff over that division going back 30 years between Claudine and Miss Miller here. So, yeah, we wish them the best, but probably private contracting would be my guess.
Okay. So do we have a person at the county level that they can contact with help in that?
It depends. Help in that being
It always does.
general, perhaps. The thing is, we don't want very clear, our zoning ends the 30th. And the reason I say that is if somebody gets sued because they didn't comply with their planning and zoning properly, the last thing I want to see is, well, I spoke to the county, and us getting wrapped into some kind of lawsuit related to that. I know from a general standpoint, we want to continue to support the locals, but ultimately they're going to have their own private counsel, and they're going to have a compliance specialist because we can't play that role for them anymore.
No, I meant as direction to find someone or find an agency.
Oh, yeah. Well, and I think Jason Ball and this whole process, if they need help, we can say these are folks that do business in the area. I'm sure we could probably put a list together like that if they need it. Yep.
All right, thank you.
We're trying to include a lot. I believe with the group of townships as well, they've been working with MTA to see if they have any resources available. So I think all the parties are doing what they can to get as much high-level support. So I think we'll be good, but if they need help, we can talk to them about it. Yep.
Thank you.
I do think it's important to note that as we are rescinding our planning and zoning is extremely busy right now in Eaton County. And I have had constant communication with the townships to let them know what applications are coming before them prior to June 30th, just to make sure that it's something that they're comfortable with at this moment, or do I need to try to pause something? So a lot of conversations, I want to say between now and June, probably no less than 15 applications are going to be heard. Land divisions are up, lot line adjustments are up, lot combinations, zoning referrals. There's a lot of people that are trying to get all of their stuff approved prior to June 30th, or at least have a decision, I guess would be a better way to say it.
All right, and no other discussion? No other questions, discussion? Okay. Thank you very much.
I'm the next one too.
Oh, yeah. I didn't,
Put on your other hat.
I didn't put that connection together just yet, so, okay.
It is
Hey,
another hat.
Thank you very much for, would you like to speak about community development?
I would. Very exciting news in community development and services. We have hired a part-time veteran service officer. Michelle is a great addition to the team. She is contagious as far as her desire to serve our veterans. She has worked in veteran services for more than 10 years now. She's really, really, really passionate about making sure that our veterans get the services they need and always looking to find more services that we can provide. Michelle and I are currently going through the training and doing our testing to both become accredited veteran service officers. What that means for Eaton County is that we'll remove the gap that we currently have, only having one accredited veteran service officer, and we'll be able to service more people. Michelle is very excited once she is accredited to be able to go out into the community and attend local veterans events, or maybe even put on our veterans events that invites our veterans to the community. So we're really excited to have her, and she is a huge asset to the team. Recently, the Brownfield Redevelopment Authority held a training, Brownfield 101, for the Land Bank Committee. This was the first time, I think, in more than a year that the Brownfield Committee met. We are fortunate to have Stephanie with Felice Vandenbrink, who is the consultant that we've hired to do a lot of the heavy lifting with the Brownfield redevelopment. The training was attended by several, looking at probably having another Brownfield Redevelopment Committee meeting just to get all of our members. Some of them are new and hadn't actually been to a meeting recently, just to kind of get them up to par. What is Brownfield? What is their job? What are their tasks? So really excited to see that moving forward, especially in conjunction with the land bank. I attended a Capital Area Child Care Coalition panel on April 1st. The purpose of my attendance in that was not only for representation of Eaton County through the Community Development and Services Department, but also as the Planning and Zoning Administrator. Childcare in the state of Michigan has seen some difficulties in being able to come to fruition, whether it be for more constraints in planning and zoning, more constraints in the legislation, or more constraints at city, village, state of Michigan building code levels. So great open discussion, lasted about 2 hours for that conversation of what would be the best path forward for this coalition to work at a legislative platform to make it easier for child care institutions to actually open. In front of you, and I do apologize for, next is the Michigan Home Performance Pilot Program. I know very little about that, just got involved in that. I'm gonna let Ms. Williams take that one over.
So this is a program that was brought to us by Capital Access. It's a contractor that HUD has contracted with to go out and do a pilot program. So it's whole home performance, so it's WHP. The goal of the program is to bring together home repair, hazard remediation, and energy efficiencies into one package for home repairs for low to moderate income persons. So instead of them coming to the county and getting an emergency repair loan to do a roof and then having to go to the DHHS and get a state emergency relief and then go to CACS and get a weatherization, they want to try and bring it all into one package. So there would be one program manager who would handle all of that for that person, that all the work would be done at one time instead of them going out to individual agencies and having 3 different appointment dates for all of the things that need done to their home. So we're working with them, no promises. We told them we were interested in concept, and then as things continue to flush out, I don't know if it's gonna work out in the end. They're talking between $500,000 and $600,000 just for Eaton County, but they also want a 40% match of the money from the county to participate right now. So we'll continue to engage with them, and we'll continue to update you. Financially, I don't know if it's going to work out for us at the end of the day, but we're certainly interested in moving forward with cooperating with them and collaborating with them, and we'll just keep you updated.
On to the opioid update and extension request. Claudine, which document was uploaded?
I can actually help with that
Thank you.
too. So there's a settlement offer that we qualify for related to 6, it's called the Remnant Defendant Settlement Agreement. I put this in the packet because I was waiting word from legal counsel if our existing resolution was enough to authorize us to enter the settlement. I got word this morning it was, so I can actually just sign on behalf of the county. It's estimated the settlement would be about $25,000 in addition to what we already have. Part of the work that Brandy will be doing is helping to manage our strategic plan with the opioids and that program. Currently, we have about $3.9 million in opioid funds, and we're projected to get an additional $4.2 million over the next 12 years. Plus, there are ongoing additional settlements happening that will add to that. So it's an opportunity to reinvest back in the community to help reduce the struggles and the members of our society that are dealing with opioid addiction. So we're look forward to that. So this is just an update, and we had some settlements in January, this one, that are not added to our balance yet. So as those finalize, we'll continue to give you updates on the balance and the programming that we're doing. Yep.
It's Commissioner Drosha and then Commissioner Pearl.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as I recall, the allocation for those funds they have very specific directions as to where they can be applied, and it will not go to the general fund. Is that correct?
Yeah, correct. So there's, for the most part, that's why we did the opioid work group and we did the strategic plan and had the health department put together like a comprehensive strategy for how to use those funds, which is a good model in the future if we ever come into a large sum of money, that we could do a similar thing, just if Wishin made it so, right? But in that, these funds have to be used in alignment with the settlement terms, and some of these settlements within have different parameters of how they can be used. So that's that work group, and Brandy's job will be to ensure that we maintain compliance. Some of them have more flexibility than others, but for the most part, we want to just kind of treat it with one brush so that way we're consistent in how we utilize the monies over the 12 to 18 years we may have them.
Commissioner Pearl Wright.
I was just going to say, too, one of the things that was brought up at MAC, HHS, was some of the funds, statewide, I don't know about here, but they're trying to push it along, that people start using some of it so that we can, one, provide services, of course. But the other part is, so it doesn't look like we really didn't have the need. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. And I think, what we've looked at strategically is we're trying to develop kind of a substantial program that we can have the monies as long as we can, not for the purpose. That interest is staying with the program itself. So if we say take 18 years to expend it, if they're generating interest, that will get reinvested through the program. So for us, I don't think opioids are going away. So if I was on a committee like that, I'd probably say, listen, we're not fighting a one and done battle. Like the war on drugs has been going on for what, 50 years now? So anyway, the best thing I think we can do is
Took the
find,
Coke out of Coca-Cola.
find the best path forward to provide support to our community. I know Brandy's passionate about it, so I'll stop talking about it.
I am actually very passionate about this subject. I've had the privilege of having 3 meetings with Amy Dolke from MAC. She's been very, very, very helpful and very insightful. Also in front of you is a request to extend our existing contract with the Eaton County Drug Courts. They weren't able to expend money. Currently, their contract in front of you, that I have in front of me, is a 1-year period. Even speaking with Amy Dolke, for service contracts, 2 years is the standard. We only gave 1 year, not sure why, but you don't know what you don't know until you do it, right? It's not requesting any more money. It's a 1-year extension. They have approximately $40,000 still left in this, and it expires on April 15th. So we're asking for an extension from April 15th of 2026 to April 15th of 2027. I am expecting to actually get the work group going, having meetings and sending out an RFP late August, beginning of September, so that this time next year, we actually have some good contracts and the money being used within our community to assist our residents.
Commissioner Whitaker.
Is this a motion that we need to make today?
It would go to ways, yep.
I would move that we extend the contract.
Or-
My other comment, I'm okay.
Okay. So what are we,
A motion would be to amend the grant award to the courts, their grant agreement to add an additional 12 months for them to utilize the monies.
okay, so that was the motion. Did you support? Yeah, okay, so I got a motion and support on the floor. Is there any further discussion on this? All right, seeing none, all in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, move that to the ways.
One more thing I forgot to mention, I'm going to back up to Veteran Service. The letter of intent has been sent to MAVCC for our intent to apply for the Veteran Service Grant for this next coming fiscal year. So the grant period is not open yet, but the first part is sending in our letter of intent to apply. So we're getting closer, and that's great. So, any questions?
I make a motion that we support sending a letter with intent for our Veteran Services Grant.
The letter of intent has already been sent.
Okay, so we don't need to do anything then,
Just
Brandy?
It
information.
was just letting you know.
Just letting us
Yes.
know. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miller.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 10. Recycling, or resource recovery, or the big, long official name.
Good morning, Commissioners. Just a few updates on some of our programs. We're launched our events this past month, and so registration for spring cleanup and Recycle-Palooza are open. We already have about 400 registrations for spring cleanup, and usually our target is about 800, so we're about halfway there, and we're a month out from the event, so we're really excited. We're gonna be receiving that Washtenaw County Conservation District plastic, and we'll be starting our Eaton County Parks recycling program too. Just further objects of note, as far as the recycling hub, Sunfield Recycling Center, we shipped out our recycling paper and cardboard, and we started receiving materials from Mulliken Recycling Center, and we just finished our fire inspection, and we just got the forklift serviced this morning, actually. So things are going well out there. The mobile recycling program, we did switch hours in Vermontville this past month from 2 to 6. Originally, it was from 1 to 4. So they got an extra hour of service, and we're also there after business hours. So residents there were very happy. We launched our electronics program this month also. So in March, we were in our Bellevue Olivet location for collecting recyclable electronics. The event went really well. We had a lot of, about a dozen community members participated. We got several hundred pounds of electronic material. Staff from Eagle was there taking pictures and talking with staff and residents. So Eagle was very happy with how the program was going. And next month, or this month actually, on April 20th, we will be in Eaton Rapids collecting electronics. And then the following month, we will be in Vermontville. And we'll continue to move that trailer around on a monthly basis. Our special recovery programs, we just collected the compact fluorescent bulbs and ink and toner cartridges from our participating recycling centers in Charlotte, Delta, and Grand Ledge. And again, we're expecting that delivery of ag plastic. For education, we're going to be attending Michigan Recycling Coalition's annual conference, where we get to talk with industry leaders from Eagle, EPA, and other counties and in the private sector. So we get to network and learn a lot about what's going on around the industry. For Earth Week this month, we will be attending the Grand Ledge Public Library's Earth Week. So we have a couple events scheduled with them, and we're looking forward to that. And we'll be discussing food waste and composting, specifically worm composting, since the kids really seem to like worms. So they'll be able to dig in and learn more about compost and food waste. And finally, our Materials Management Planning Committee is meeting this afternoon at 3 p.m. in this room, and we'll be discussing diversions for household hazardous waste, electronic waste, organic waste, as well as reviewing some of the recycling benchmarks with the committee, and talking about some of our goals for diversions. So we look forward to that meeting this afternoon.
Any commissioners? All right, Commissioner Drosha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Jared. Could you, under your education, you were talking about food waste and composting and where that's going, and I think it's important for that education, but I think there's probably a lot more people watching this than will come to some of those events. So just briefly, what is the reason that we're looking, or they're talking about removing the food waste and those materials from the landfill in general and doing something different with that?
On the positive side, organic food waste is a resource, so farmers are investing however much dollars in purchasing fertilizers and producing all of this food, and then in that food, we still have a lot of those nutrients that were bought by the farmer. And so if we can recapture those nutrients and cycle it into compost or different kinds of fertilizer, most of these products are gonna be for agriculture, whether it's compost or the food waste, food scraps being fed directly to chickens or pigs. And so it's recapturing those nutrients and those recovering those economic losses. So ideally, that would be the primary reason why we're doing it. And then some secondary reasons, or depending how you look at it, about 20 to 30% of our landfill by volume currently is landfill waste is food waste. So organics, things that can be, like I said, composted and reused on farms or landscapes for homeowners. And so when that material is landfilled, it rots in the landfill and produces a lot of methane gas. And that methane gas is a major driver for greenhouse gas, and it also has a public health effect. So people who tend to live near landfills experience respiratory diseases and respiratory distress at a higher rate than other communities. And a lot of that is due to the nitrogen off-gassing, methane included. And so this would be really beneficial for public health in that light, reducing respiratory distress around landfills. We do have one not in Eaton County, just north of the border in Clinton County, but also the food waste is also, we're also working and considering further programs with Food Rescue US Lansing, and it's a really great community group. It's all volunteer currently, and they're looking to incorporate and have a fiduciary, maybe through the Michigan Recycling Coalition. And what the Food Rescue folks do is at grocery stores, they throw away several tons of food every single day, foods that's expiring or damaged. And so what the Food Rescue folks do is very successfully, and they work in the tonnage now. They contact the stores, restaurants, schools, whatever food service provider is participating in the program, and they have volunteers go pick up that food and deliver it to food pantries and people in need. So we already have a lot of involvement and participation in Eaton County with our coordinating with our food banks and the Food Rescue US. So in order to get these out of the landfill, most of it doesn't necessarily need to be composted. We can find other uses for it, specifically to feed people perfectly good food. And then it won't have to go in the landfill or undergo composting or anaerobic digestion or any other process. So there's several reasons to be involved with it: reducing landfill for public health, recapture economic losses from farming in our food system. And so overall, I think it's a really great idea, and So far, the county hasn't done a lot of work on that, but with this new materials management plan, there is a mandate in there to have benchmark standards for organics. So with our committee, the Eaton County Materials Management Planning Committee, our job is going to be to set benchmarks. So we're going to look at working with Hammond Farms and My Green Michigan, and there's a couple other groups that are working in composting in the area, in the Lansing area, and then looking at what we can do on the county level to help support some of the municipalities and local composters, and maybe even the Conservation District. I've been meeting with them, and a lot of the food waste could be feed for, as I mentioned, chickens and pigs. So we want to work with the Conservation District and find ways we can connect farmers with people who have excess of food waste for their facilities. So we're going to be looking at it from a lot of different angles.
All right, thank you.
Yep.
All right, seeing no other questions? Thank you very much. Moving on to item 11, Parks.
Good morning, Commissioners. So for the department report, a notice regarding the community grant program has been sent out to all townships and municipalities. This community grant applications are due on May 1st by 5 p.m. This year we will be awarding around $400,000 worth of grant funds. The department received several proposals from firms interested in updating our parks master plan. The four that we received proposals from were MCSA, Rowe, Williams & Works, and McKenna. We propose going with Rowe. So while we reviewed all the proposals and they all had a lot to offer, Rowe came in at a good bid, as well as they met all the criteria to complete this master plan by September 1st, which is when we need it completed by for our out-of-cycle Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund grant. So, the Natural Resources Trust Fund grant for the Charlotte Southern Rail Line has been completed. We are just waiting on submitting that once we get that master plan completed. This past week, I met with the Mid-Michigan Mountain Biking Association. So out at Fox Park, we have around 7 miles worth of mountain biking trails. We're looking to increase the level of partnership between the county and this and Mid-Michigan Mountain Biking. And following that, coming in May, we will be submitting an MOU for that organization. Let's see here. So in the coming weeks, we will be continuing to partner with Annie's Big Nature Lesson out at Lincoln Brick Park. In the next 3 weeks, we will be hosting 3 different school groups from all around the greater Lansing area. This is a really great program that so students come out for a full week of nature-based education. They get to hang out in the park and learn a lot about the interesting ecosystems that we have out there. Following that, we are also working on preparing for our summer adventure program. So we are updating camp policies and working on hiring this year's camp staff. Upcoming events for April. So this Saturday, we will be hosting our first triathlon at Lincoln Brick Park. So we will be planting 300 trees in and around the area, and this is all part of our strategic timber harvest that we're going to be doing in late August, early September. So by all means, if anyone is interested, please come on out and help. That event will start at 8 a.m. and end at 11 a.m. So this past month, our operations staff has been hard at work getting going on some of our bigger projects for the season. So the Eastern Playground that was kind of falling into ruin over at Fox Park has been removed. And this is in preparation for a new playground that will be coming here in early spring. The wooden playground that was also in pretty bad condition at Lincoln Brick Park has been removed. And then the Fitzgerald Park bathrooms have been, had some repairs done to it in preparation for the new summer season. And then all the dirt driveways at Lincoln Brick Park and Fox Memorial Park have been graded. This coming month, we will be preparing for the new playground at Fox Park. So that playground on the western side of the property is going to be torn out. So when Mid-State Recreation comes in, they can get to grading it right away. And then we are also working on preparations for a new cement picnic pad and tables at the Keeney Environmental Area. Okay. So DNR grant updates. So we are still waiting on funds to be released for the Michigan Natural Resources Trust Fund to acquire those 50 acres that are adjacent to Lincoln Brick Park. It's looking like that'll probably be released by July, so at which point we'll start conversations with the property owner. And then the Fisheries Habitat Grant that was submitted, we're looking for grant award announcements to be coming in May. And then, let's see here. And then recently the DNR released their statement for the Urban and Community Forest Grant. The deadline for that is May 18th. So I'm looking for a motion to approve for the department to go for this grant. So the deadline is May 18th. The award announcements are in July, and then projects would need to be completed by December 31st. Projects that we would submit on would be between $10,000 and $75,000. This year, the DNR is putting out $500,000 that can be awarded, and there is no match required. So,
Are you done with your initial report?
yes, that,
Oh, okay.
He's down to action items.
Yeah, he sort of brushed over it. Commissioner Christensen, do you got a question that's not one of these action items?
Well, I'll support his motion, or I'll make a motion to move forward with that, but I did have a question as well.
Which one?
Let's
he
start with
threw
my
them all in
question
there.
really quickly. I missed a location for the 8 to 11 tree planting Saturday. Where's
that'll be at Lincoln Brick Park,
Lincoln Brick? Okay.
just a little bit north of Grand Ledge, off of Tallman Road. We'll be meeting at the main building and then going over the project and then going out into the,
That's a volunteer process.
yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
And then moving back to the motion, I'll make a motion that we move forward with the DNR process.
Awesome.
So the grant he's talking about specifically is the Urban and Communities Grant. It's for tree planting. Unfortunately, we did not get that email about the grant until Friday, so we couldn't come up with a plan quick enough for you guys to approve like a dollar amount and an actual like site plan and stuff. And the grant's due before the board meets again. So we'll have something for you at Public Works, but our ask today is just to be able to apply for it with the understanding the resolution will state within it that it has to come back to the board for approval before we accept the grant.
That was the motion?
Yes.
I mean, you still good? I mean, you put the motion on the floor, so you still good with that motion?
Yes.
Okay.
And then you're still good with the support? Yes. Okay. Commissioner Toomey, and then I'll come
Just
over
to
this.
clarify, no match on the grant, right?
No match.
Cool with it.
Okay.
That was my question, because typically they do come with that.
No, this one is no.
Commissioner Whitaker?
Is there like a ballpark amount you think it will be?
Well, we can't ask for less than 10 or more than 75. So it'll be, I know that's a big number, but it'll be somewhere in there. So the project will be at Crandall. So whatever, once Ethan's gonna meet out there with a forester that we've worked with before, they're gonna kind of come up with a plan. So I think it will be lower than 75 for sure, but we'll see.
Yes, Commissioner.
Can I ask Ethan a question?
Yeah.
So, you listed different things coming up. I just wanted to know at Fitzgerald Park, are we still looking at, craft show that we always do out there in the beginning of August, as well as the car show?
Yeah, so the car show will still be going on. I believe it's the second weekend in July. And then the craft show is also going to be taking place in August out there.
Because we like the parking
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah, it's always a good area for events.
It used to be downtown.
Mm-hmm.
You had to walk a long way.
Yeah, no, there's plenty of parking at Fitzgerald Park, so.
Okay, so we have a motion on the floor in support for the DNR grant request. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. All right, so with that, now we're moving on to the master plan. Didn't we, since I've been on the board, didn't we have a master plan for the parks?
We had a strategic plan for 4 parks specifically. The DNR requires you to have a 5-year parks master plan, and it actually has to be updated every 5 years. You can't just look at it and make a motion and say, yep, looks good, and move on. You actually have to have a new plan that meets all of their requirements every 5 years. So that's what the request is. They can certainly use that strategic plan as part of the master plan, but we have to have an actual new 5-year master plan every 5 years. So that's what the request is for.
For all the county parks?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, and then I think, yep, up on the screen, and then Ethan explained what the 4 different proposals we got back. The MCSA does not meet the time requirement. We have to have it by September 1st in order for you to approve it at the board in September, because we have to have it done for the DNR by October 1st. So once you pull them out, the lowest bid is 25. It's Rowe. We've both worked with Rowe before. They're working on some other communities in the area, so we don't see a problem working with them at all. So that would require action.
Okay. Commissioner Tu.
I'll move it. On my mic while I say this. I'll move it, but that was my question. So thank you, Claudine. I was wondering if we'd worked with this vendor before and who else has worked with them. But their plan looks good, so I'm good with it. And we needed it to get money, so.
Okay, so I got a motion and support. Do you have a question also? Okay. Any further discussion? All right, all in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. And then we're on to the capital equipment purchase.
So this is for our track vac. So the track vac was budgeted for in the budget, and we went out for 3 proposals. That being said, because the track vac is such a unique piece of equipment, the prices aren't exactly comparable, but the quote that you have before you is what we would like to move ahead with purchasing. And this is to help with fall cleanup efforts. You know, we've got a lot of acreage that we cover, and this will help speed up how we manage our fall cleanup, so we can work on other projects as well.
Where's all the, what are you gonna do with all the leaves?
So most of the leaves are moved into our tree line, along the tree line in some of our parks. And then we also have an area out at Crandall where we have stumps and trees and other things that can be composted.
Okay.
So, Keith,
Yes, Commissioner.
so this piece of equipment, that comes out of the Parks millage too, right? Okay, just making sure.
Yep.
I mean, I just needed to know where the money was.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Okay. Do I have a motion to move this to Ways, right?
So moved.
Okay. I got a motion and support. Any further discussion? Yes, Commissioner Drosha?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ethan, this equipment looks to be pretty large, and it looks to be limited. There, this equipment looks to be pretty large, and looks like it will be limited as to the areas it'll go. How are we gonna use this? I mean, we're gonna transport leaves to a different spot and let this thing suck them up, or what's the plan?
So the plan is to use this to help with fall cleanup efforts at Lincoln Brick Park, Fox Park, Fitzgerald Park, and potentially areas in Crandall Park as we start to develop that and introduce new sections of the park. I mean, a lot of the leaves will be filled into the tree line at some of those parks.
How will they be collected though, Ethan? Will you collect the leaves, put them in a central location and then vacuum them up? Or will you be taking the trailer through the park on the tree line and collecting that, driving through the park and collecting them with the machine, I think is the question.
I would imagine probably a bit of both. When we use our buffalo blowers, sometimes, we're putting all the leaves in one section and then taking care of them and also blowing them to the tree line. So this piece of equipment is just going to give us more options.
So we've not had one of these in the past?
No.
Okay. And I'm assuming, going back to Mr. Barber's question, then, we'll work in conjunction with the waste management people, or our recycling group, and that'll be part of the composting program?
Likely, yeah.
Okay. All right, I'm not 100% on board with this, but okay, thank you.
So where are we gonna store that equipment, like when it's not being used? Are we gonna try to put it in the pole barn at Fox Park, or?
No, so we have a big storage barn out at Crandall Park, and that's where we'll put this piece of equipment when it's not in use.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, I have a motion and support on the floor. All in favor, signify with aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
All right, it carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to item 12, excuse me. Yeah, oh, yes.
Excuse me, Ethan, if you could come back up for just a minute. We had an email, and I should include Ben in this because I know he got the email, about certification for safety inspection on playground. And is that something we do internally, or do we hire that out?
I believe in the past, we've had it done internally, but we'll likely hire it out.
No, isn't the Parks Director supposed to be certified in that?
I'm not sure.
Don't believe it's part of the job description that they be certified, no.
Okay, would it be to our advantage to have our park
Yeah.
employees certified?
We actually had that discussion because there's a training to get certified in Michigan this month, I believe. So I think we had a discussion about maybe you and Young's going to that. So I don't know if that's gotten scheduled or not, but the idea being if we had that capability in-house and we can do it because it's here regionally, that'd be something we'd want to do and use the existing training budget of the Parks Department to do it. But I haven't gotten a follow-up. If you guys got registered?
I wasn't aware that there was a training, but by all means, we are happy to get trained on this if that's something that we can do, so.
Well, my follow-up question, that is it an advantage to us to do that internally, or is it an advantage just liability-wise to have another group come in and do it?
Liability-wise, it's not bad having an external partner do it. Even if we have somebody that is certified in that, we could still have an external party come out and do it. So, to me, it's not mutually exclusive. It's just if we can have it in-house, that's a good resource to have, but also not opposed to when we do the playground equipment. Like, for instance, this time with the playground equipment, it's been a while since those have been reviewed. So having your staff kind of know what to look for in terms of decay and at what point are these playgrounds maybe all of a sudden becoming a liability just because, you've got a switch where last year it was okay and then this year it's kind of reached that tipping point. So we'll talk. I thought we had a discussion. Maybe it was Chad and I, but we'll make sure that we get a lock on the dates and we haven't missed a deadline or something.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
I just had a quick question for Ben. So what is the price on training like that to send someone?
I don't know. Once I had the discussion, I thought it was going to be done, but I don't know. I'll get that information and have
I was
it.
just curious if it would be beneficial to us. I mean, like you said, if we had someone in-house that would,
Yeah. To me, it's worth it. So if it's $750 or $1,000, which generally for this type of thing, that's what you're looking at, So for $2,000, we could have 2 people that are certified in that. To me, that's money well spent.
We wouldn't
Especially
have to
'cause
pay
the
an outside
stability we
source.
had. Yeah, yeah. And not that we would do it, but in the sense of like a contractual service, but, other parks departments could be like, hey, can you come take a look at this? And you could be like, you probably want to get an official opinion, but yeah, you probably want to budget next year to replace your playground equipment. So it'd be nice to have that capacity at our parks.
I would just like to remind all the constituents that all these improvements are through the Parks millage, and they should be happy with, I mean, I hope they're happy with the state of our parks and the progression and the improvement of them. And it's only possible because they voted for the Parks grant, or Parks millage, excuse me.
100%. Otherwise, we'd probably just be closing those services down.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Any further questions or statements? Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we move on to item 12, Drain Commission.
So I will take full responsibility. This is what I was uploading last night, the items here. I got the structure requests from the department on Monday, and I hadn't had a chance to go through and flush them out, so that was a late addition on my part. And then the grant I just got yesterday. So I'll lead off with the drain opportunity, and then Marcus and I can both talk through the restructuring requests. So before you, you have a grant opportunity that the county was able to get. This has been, I will say Angela Whitwer has been a wonderful partner in trying to advocate for funding towards that Bank County drain. Its original sticker price was $60 million. We were able to help the price get down by $5 million through a grant previously. So this would be an additional $2.5 million on that project. It represents a significant hardship, as all drains do for all people, but for this district of 1,900 property owners, a $60 million project is staggering. So we've got this request before us. I would look for authorization to move this to Ways and then the full board ultimately, but this would authorize me to sign or the chairman to sign so that we can apply this to the total construction costs of the project, which then will provide relief to property owners and governmental entities that are associated with the project as well.
Commissioner Toomey.
Yeah, so this additional, firstly, this is good news. All the additional support we can get on this is good. This $2.5 million, is this going to be used to offset the county's liability, or is it going to somehow reduce the property owner's liability?
Yeah, no, first, it's a construction, so it's only eligible for construction costs. So it will go off the top of the construction portion of it. How that allocation process will work is up to the drainage district. The discussions up to this point have been trying to adopt a methodology that it provides relief like equal to what homeowners or property owners were assessed. So for instance, you wouldn't exclude Delta Township or the county or road commission just because they're governmental entities, because we all paid into the project, but so did the property owners. So they're gonna have to come up, but it will be spread between all parties that were assessed.
Commissioner Drosh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have learned of late that there are drain projects that even though some of the residents paid their portion in full, they were then at a later date assessed interest.
Yeah.
My question about this amount of money is, can this be directed to the principal to avoid that high interest payment 20, 30 years down the road? Is there any way to offset that at this point using some of this grant money?
That is currently being discussed with attorneys, how that works. The difficulty is, the way to do that is to get the money before the project commences. Because once a project commences and then you have your computation of costs and that gets adopted, and then that's like a formal, this is what this project is. When you go to bond, it's done, because a bond is a binding contractual agreement with the lender. So it will not be able to get backed in that sense. I think the drainage district is looking at their bond terms to see how that application would it's probably going to be either a 1-year or a 2-year reprieve on some of the assessment costs for the people that receive that benefit, if that makes sense. So it would just lower their payments for.
So in other words, no, the interest is gonna come due.
Yeah, as soon as it goes out to bond, yeah.
Well,
That's
it's
why
already
we-
gone out to bond.
Oh, 100%, yeah. It's been bonded for about a year
Yeah.
and a half, I think. Unfortunately so, yeah.
And then, Ben, correct me if I'm wrong, if they've already paid in full, they'll get a check.
So that's our intention, but the drainage district will have final say on how all of that. But that's what we're looking for and advocating for is the simplest and easiest approach is just what was everybody's obligation up front, and that should be, if there's any savings or project savings, and you reduce the cost of the project, how is that applied? Use the same methodology as it was assessed.
Well, I would hope that there would be some way to direct these funds towards that future interest payment, because if you've gotten your assessment and you've already paid it or you're paying it incrementally, this would certainly help with that big bill that's gonna come due at the end of this project.
Well, it's complicated because honestly, the way the drain code works too, the most expensive payments is the second payment you make. Because that first payment is the assessment that's a prorated portion, and then that next one is the largest interest payment you'll ever pay. And so, to be honest, that tail end that you're talking about, like if there was unpaid interest because, say, property owners defaulted over the life of the loan, and then those costs recirculated back in, because that's how that happens. If somebody's unable to pay their assessment, that district is still responsible to make those interest
Well,
payments, and et cetera.
it's also happened with people that have paid their assessment up front.
Right.
Even though it was done after the bond, and then they get whacked with a big interest penalty 10, 20 years later. So that's that. I mean, if we could direct funds towards that to offset that, I think people would appreciate that in the future.
Yeah, well, this specifically, it can only be used for construction costs today, and then it will be, the drainage district will have to come up with an allotment process. And we'll continue to have those discussions and report back what that looks like. But before us today is a grant to cover $2.5 million in construction costs, and then explore what that looks like on the back end.
Commissioner Toomey.
Yeah, just a really quick point of clarification. So I understand it's being used for construction costs today, and then the drainage district will figure out how that's allotted between all the parties, right? Good so far? To what Commissioner Drosha was asking, so are you saying that it'll basically be used in that first year or two to lower, this is what I understood you saying, and I might be incorrect, to lower the monthly payment, but not necessarily, it's not like principal curtailment, it's not like in addition to, it's just gonna give you a temporary 1-2 reprieve, and that's gonna go right back up in 2
Yeah,
years?
because most bonds for drains have a period where you cannot pay it off early. So once a bond is set, you have like a 3 to 5 year period where even if a homeowner's like, hey, I came into 20 grand through, somebody passed away and I would love to pay off my portion.
And that's a drain code thing?
It is.
That's
Well,
stupid as hell.
That's no, yeah. I mean, those are the bond terms though. So there's a date that gets established that after that date, people can then come back to pay it off. But it's not like a mortgage where you're like, hey, I can do 50 a month. I want to pay down my portion.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. I'm just saying I'm screaming into the ether of the state drain code of like, that is bad, that is dumb. So, okay, thank you for that explanation. I appreciate it. Relief is better than no relief, but.
Yeah, and the drain code being a beast, there are a number of reform bills that have been moved, and that was part of what I was going to share, but I'll share that after this. But reform is going to come painfully and slowly, but it looks like what you see with these package of bills, finding specific segments of the Drain Act that doesn't make sense, and then developing bipartisan support at the state level to push reforms through.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
So Keith,
Yes, Commissioner.
okay, so it works kind of like our house mortgages then, where we pay the interest up front, and then we start paying more and more on the principal?
Correct.
Okay.
So you have all your principal payments are equally distributed over the life, but then your interest is based on the balance. So those first few years, while the principal's highest, the interest is most significant, and then the tail winds down over the life.
So if we apply for this grant, which we're having discussion without first moving a motion, that, that this will actually help the people, so it might reduce how much they have to pay for the first couple of years where the interest is higher, right?
Those are the discussions the Drain District is having, correct. For our part, because it's a construction grant, we're committing to being the entity that does a pass-through for the 2.5 to cover 2.5 million in construction costs, and then from there, the Drainage District has to come up with how that reduction in the total cost of the project is impactful to residents, property owners, businesses. Yeah.
Okay, I move the approval to apply for this grant. I mean, if it was $500, I would move it. Anything is a help. Thanks.
Definitely.
Okay, so I got a motion. Do I got support? I got a motion and support. To your point, yes. Is there any further discussion?
I'll just add one piece for
Oh.
admin revenue.
Okay.
It's not allowable like a de minimis where we could just say 10%, 15%. This grant has staff time, so what we would need to do is do kind of a time tracking for the drain office, our office, and the treasurer's office. And that would be, we'd get comped back for our time, and I think it's 40% of fringe and then the salary of the employees. I would conservatively think maybe 70K. Our goal would be to try to get as much of this through to the project itself, but in terms of an admin, that's the discussion. When we go to Ways, we would be asking for an override, and I'm trying to draft a revision to that policy as we've discussed, so hopefully I have that done by Friday. But anyway, yep.
Okay. Any further discussion? All right, so I got a motion and support on the floor. All in favor signify with aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. So that was, is that all for the intercounty bank drain? that
It
you had?
is all updated in the form of a resolution by Ways, and we'll move through and just keep that communication open, especially once we get a place where we have an idea of the impact on property owners. The sooner we can make that communication available, I think the better. So that will be administration's objective, and I think everybody involved is, yeah.
I think we should over-communicate.
Yeah.
Right? Because you might not hit all the residents the first time you communicate that, Logan. So multiple pushes to make sure that people in Delta know that, you know, there's some help. Might not be much, but there's some help coming. All right, so that moves us on to Drain Commission Office restructuring request. And Marcus, hello.
Hello, good morning, everyone. I worked with Ben on this quite a bit, and I worked with Richard and worked with John and Dina in the office and tried to come up with the best fit. We spoke about the strengths that this proposal has. Our restructuring is adding a position. It's creating a new position, which Dina would move into, who is the current administrative assistant. It would turn her into the office manager, and she would oversee the major functions of the drain office, such as money movements, payments, everything that keeps the drain office running. And then we would fill the vacant position of the administrative assistant portion of things. With that added position, we see a lot of benefit to the drain office and to the public in helping reduce costs and bringing work back into the drain office that has been contracted out as of late. And a lot of that would be the assessing functions, not taking the assessing back in fully, but handling a lot more of those duties within our office and not, I mean, so that would reduce the cost significantly there as well. One thing that I would like to point out on this is in the job descriptions that are in the packet I have, you can see that between myself and the current administrative assistant position, well, I don't have the current administrative assistant position, but the current administrative assistant position is also, would be what the office manager is doing in those two job duties. So you've got two people doing the essential work of probably three people or more. So adding this person would help distribute the workload, and it would help us interact and serve the public better as well.
Yes, Commissioner Toomey.
Yeah, you mentioned a cost savings from creating this position and having less work to contract out. What amount are you projecting? Are we going to save from that?
I don't have an amount right now, but I would be willing to do some sort of an analysis and come back to you guys on that. And, you know, after the first year, let you know what the savings was.
I got a question for you. So, all last year, you had a,
Two open positions.
they were the
One was a
accountant, right?
accountant and
Accountant.
the-
So, you had an accountant, position available to be filled that would have done, correct me if I'm wrong, would have done, the assessments, the stuff that you contracted out, is that?
No, the assessment administrator was a separate position than the accounting.
Okay.
So there were two positions in the budget that ended up getting eliminated. One was the drain assessment administrator and then the accountant. And those two would have worked together because the assessments are part and parcel with revenue coming into the drain office. In fact, so for the comparison to what's in the packet, it is a new position that he's asking for, but I used the drain assessment administrator's job title so that you could see it would be reauthorizing largely position work that got eliminated through the budget process. That's what it was historically. It was a 6. He took some of the work out and then added other specifics. So I'm not sure what it would come back at, if it would be like a 4 or a 5 in terms of like the pay grade on it. The reimbursement or the savings, Commissioner Toomey, is the way it's set up now is if there are 120 properties that had splits that had to get reassessed, those property owners would pay $2 or $5, whatever essentially the cost was to have the third party do the assessments, is billed out to those properties that had a change in parcel that need to get reassessed, if that makes sense. So the potential savings would be you'd be paying for this position, and then if that work is happening in the drain office, it's less assessed to the property owners who've had splits and other changes over the year.
So it's a cost saving to the resident, not the
County as a whole, correct, yep.
Okay, so, what, you had these two positions available, that you didn't fill. That's the reason why we cut them in the budget. And now you're coming back saying, hey, let's restructure so we can fill these positions to offer savings to the constituents. How are we supposed to know you're even going to fill them? Because you had two positions vacant that you didn't fill before, but now you're saying that you need two positions.
So we did post and actually do a job search for the accountant portion of things. We didn't find an applicant that we thought would suit the drain office well. And I also had conversations with Ben about this. I wasn't sure how to go about changing what we were looking for because we had talks amongst us in the drain office and we didn't think the accountant fit our needs as well as adding an administrative assistant or that type of function in our office. And I still don't know how that goes with how do you change that request? How do you change that description of your open positions? I'm not sure. So.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I'm just gonna
Yeah.
say, you and I talked at length, so I just want to be clear, because I work with all offices, and I don't mean
Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
you say disrespect, but I definitely, we had discussions on that. We can go back and forth about the needs of the accounting piece, but structurally, we've talked about that office 23, 24, just about every year. So I understand what you're saying, and I know reporting to the drain commissioner. There's a lot that goes into deciding exactly what the structure of an office looks like, but I want to be clear, administratively, this was not from a lack of communication on our part of process procedure or how to get what you need. I just need to make that.
No, Ben and I did have a lot of conversations about this. Yep.
So, I mean, before I pass it over to another commissioner, I mean, have we at least done a search to see if anybody like on LinkedIn or whatever the other job sites are that we think, have we searched for somebody with some of these positions or some of these qualities before we just decide that, hey, let's just restructure the office to fit these? If we couldn't find an accountant, right, or, excuse me, an assessment administrator, and we're gonna change the job title for them to do a little bit of that, but not that much. I mean, have we looked and seen if there's gonna be anybody? Are we just doing this to do this and then not have a position filled?
I will,
That was
for
sorta-
my part, do you want, okay. So for
Why?
my part, I do want to say, we never posted the drain assessment administrator, so that did not get posted. The accountant did get posted, and hiring decisions are made within an elected
Totally
office.
understand.
There were candidates, because at the same time, we had an accountant opening as well.
Okay.
So we both were looking at the same pool of candidates.
Okay.
Would I have made a hiring decision? Yep, but at the same time, respect for the elected officials' decision. So there were a number of candidates that were reviewed at the time. That decision about doing the accountant was made in concert with the drain commissioner and based on Ingham County and some of the regions around here. So most drain offices do have that. So I just want to give that context for where we landed last year.
Commissioner Prowright, do you still have a question?
I do.
Okay.
Okay, so we took out the 2 positions that were open, and we still had a rough budget last year. I know in the controller's office why we were able to restructure the way we did because of where we expected the income from revenue. So I understand that. But in the drain office, we took out the 2 positions and we still made a budget without them. So if we redo this before budget time, is the 3rd position going to have funds to even be able to post it reasonably?
Yeah, so moving into the ways discussion, it's a good consideration to have because especially with these restructure requests, is it an immediate implement or is it an October 1st implement? So
Right.
it's a decision that can be made at the ways process. The other thing on Friday y'all will be looking at is adopting target for budgeting. So now that the audit's done, we know what our fund balance carryover, so we know what our unrestricted general fund balance is. So you'll all be adopting a target that I think will help answer your question there, which is, if we're funding this, how are we paying for it? And how much did we have carry over from the last cycle? Anyway, so I think those discussions will be good to have on Friday. As it rests with this department, so we have to provide a serviceable level. That's the language, that's the statutory obligation. I think this comes from a place, and not to put words in Marcus's mouth, he would say that we may have fallen behind on that just because of how much did get cut. And similar to your question, had we posted the assessment administrator, would we have gotten hits as maybe somebody that fit more of the bill that they were looking for? It's very possible. In retrospect, many of our offices down this wing have office managers. So Chad has an office manager, construction code at one time. So anyway, so that's kind of a existing position and role. The intention being you have a department saying the cuts maybe went a little too hard. If we do this, we can get relief to the property owners in the form of those assessments, plus improve service, customer service, and the flow of work through the drains office.
And
And this isn't only for our administration currently either. Ben definitely put it in my head, you're doing this for the longevity of the drain office, for the next administration, the administration after that. So there was a lot of thought put into this on what would be beneficial for the next person moving in there and, try and help the public and the office.
100%. And I attest.
Ben, I'm not trying to say that they're not. I'm only worried about the dollars and cents. You know what I'm saying? So, and you, I mean, you have a lot of responsibility, and we've had a lot of drain projects come through here, and even in the last 5 years. So we know that there's more coming. I'm pretty sure that we've got drains all over the place that are getting, you know, weak and gonna need some attention, just because we haven't been servicing things for 30 years.
And that's part of the reason that I wanted to go with the administrative assistant instead of hiring a higher grade. I thought that keeping the administrative assistant and having an office manager would keep our costs lower as opposed to hiring an accountant or an assessment administrator as well. So that was the other thought involved in that.
Okay, and I know, Marcus, that you're what, 4 years in here to the county or something like that, 5?
3, yeah.
Yes.
Yep.
So,
In drain years, it's like 10. No.
yeah, but it takes a while to also get comfortable, you know what I mean, and know what's going on. I mean, if I sent you over to Ionia County, it'd be different. You could transfer some skills, but it's still gonna be different.
Yep, it would be.
Thank you.
All right, we got Commissioner Christensen, then Jerosha, and then Toomey. Commissioner Christensen.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to start out by saying thank you to Marcus. He actually helped me about a week and a half ago with a couple different issues that I was having with a couple different constituents. So thank you for that.
You're welcome.
This that I'm about to say, because I'm going to be the black sheep of the room, has no repercussions on Marcus at all. I feel like Marcus is running the drain commissioner's office. I feel like we don't have a drain commissioner. Before I will agree to putting any money towards the drain commissioner's office, since he decided to get rid of a very competent employee that he did have that did the job properly, and we didn't have to pay outside sources to do the job, we need to talk to our drain commissioner. We need to hear from him. That's all I have.
Commissioner Jerosha.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Marcus, for being here, and thank you for your comment, Commissioner Christensen. And along that line, I'm looking at this, and I'm assuming that through this restructuring, you've removed our drain commissioner from it completely. Is that correct?
No.
Much smaller now.
No.
Well, the reason I ask is that you say that you need 4 positions in the office and you've got 3 people, but if our drain commissioner was active in his office, we would have 4 people. Is that correct?
I mean, the drain commissioner's been here.
That's
both
not the
days
question
this
I
week.
asked, Marcus. I ask you, if he was active in his office, we would have 4 people in the office. Is that correct?
If that's how you want to see it, yeah.
Well, it's not how I want to be. What I'm saying is I'm looking through your duties and you're taking over the drain commissioner's position. How come he's not active in his office? To the point that on your letterhead, his name's not even on there anymore.
His name's on there.
No, it's not. And it's glaring in that this
was on the
apparently
one
is
thing
how
I
our drain
saw.
office is going to work. So I go back to my question. If he were active in his office and doing the duties that apparently you're doing for him, we would have 4 people in that office right now. Is that correct?
Yes, and for the record, Mr. Wagner has all the approval abilities. I don't get to approve everything that he approves.
For the record, we
Everything-
haven't seen him in
everything
almost
goes
a
through
year.
him for approval.
For the record, we haven't seen him almost a year, and I have constituents calling me saying he will not even pick up his phone. Then I find out he lost his phone.
He's got his new phone now.
Is he using it?
Commissioners,
assuming so.
I do just like to state, remember, Marcus is an employee of the
I
county.
know, and I appreciate
Right?
Marcus being
He
here,
is
but
not
I
an
would
elected
rather Richard
official.
Wagner being
So,
here to
just keep that in
defend his
mind.
office. But anyway, I'm going to recommend, I'll move an amendment to this resolution that we table this until such time Mr. Wagner comes in and pleads his case.
Commissioner Toomey. Thank you, Commissioner Jerosha. Commissioner Toomey.
Okay. Mainly questions about the actual financials of everything, but I do agree with Commissioner Jerosha, Commissioner Christensen's sentiments. This is not about you, Marcus, at all. I have no idea why the drain commissioner would not be able to come in here and, for a department that's getting a restructuring, explain that, since he is the head of that office, and he is not on the letterhead. I noticed that as well, just if that's something you guys want to look into. Really quick, going back to what Ben was saying about the cost savings, how much, can you give me a dollar amount on, let's say, you said, okay, we're gonna save $5 for the residents on, this type of paperwork. How many of those do we do in a year? What is the total cost savings we're looking at?
I think if it's getting tabled, we come back with that information. What I would need to get with your team on is how many properties were assessed, what was the total for those services, because that's how you get to that number, and I don't have that off the top of my head.
Do you have an estimate, Marcus? I don't need an exact number. I'm just like ballpark.
I don't have an estimate. I'm working on that right now. And I'll be here next month for the annual report as well, which has all that information in there, has all the properties assessed, how many properties, how many landowners, all that information.
Okay, well, then I'm not gonna be ready to make a decision today. I wanna see those numbers. But I'm happy to make a decision at that time.
You know what I don't understand with this is you guys keep hounding the office that we're not doing enough for the people, but then I come here and ask for resources to be able to serve the people and serve the county better. And every time I do this, you guys shoot me down. So we eliminated the 2 positions, we got rid of a vehicle upon the request of the county, and we're doing all the things that you're asking, and then I come here and ask for a restructure or a motion for the restructure, and nobody wants to do anything with it.
So, Marcus, just to be clear with my question, I wanna see the numbers of how this is going. If I'm gonna pay $40,000 to $50,000 to save costs, and I'm only gonna save the residents $10,000, if I'm gonna spend 50,000 taxpayer dollars to save 10,000 taxpayer dollars, that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. So that's all I wanna see. I'm not against this. If you show me the numbers check out, that's all I need to see, and I'm a happy camper.
Okay.
All right, so we had a commissioner make a motion, right, to table this.
I second that.
Okay, you second that. All right, now, any further discussion? Commissioner Christensen.
I just want to clarify, it's not you. I've said it before, I'll say it again. It's not you. It's your boss, and as Commissioner Drosha said, or Barber said, you're an employee of his, and we get that, and an employee of the county. It's not you. It's the fact that he's not transparent, he's not communicating with his constituents that put him in the seat. If Ben didn't show up at these meetings, we'd be calling him out. If my own husband didn't do his job, I'd call him out. I'm not calling you out. It's nothing against you, I promise you that. I think you're a great person. I think you're a better person than you think you are because you're doing his job, and I appreciate that. But he needs to be transparent. He needs to be here. All these people are paying his wage, and he's not here. It's very aggravating, and I'm probably just like Commissioner Drosha and the rest of us. We're tired of hearing from the constituents, which I will continue to take calls because that's what I'm here for. But we shouldn't have to.
It's Commissioner Whitaker.
Not to kick a dead horse, but I feel like this is probably a really good, structurally speaking, between Ben's work and Marcus's work, a fix around some of the dysfunction, if you will, in the office, and I'm not taking that personally. I mean, you shouldn't be the one here to defend this proposal. The drain commissioner should be here. But I feel like we're trying to work around some, I don't know if it's incompetency or unwillingness to show up, or what. I just feel like we're working around something. Instead of addressing what's broken, we're trying to fix the stuff in place that keeps it running. So I'm agreeing with my fellow commissioners that, this new structure really takes even more stuff away from the drain commissioner. If you look at the comparison between the 2 organizational charts, drain commissioner had this great big rectangle before, and now he's got like a little, whatever that shape is, rhombus or whatever that is. And it just seems like, and maybe with an elected official and with the difference between staff and turnover, I know that there's the staff generally is running, the operations of our county. But I just feel like it's just another example of taking away expectations and responsibility from an elected official who isn't even willing to be here today to ask for this proposal. So my other question is, we're discussing this as ways or as a Public Works. Is this our decision to make before we can even send it to Ways and Means, or does Ways and Means, I thought they had HR kind of.
Yeah, so it comes here first for policy review, and then from there, it has to go to Ways. Ways would authorize it to go to the consultant to have a pay rate evaluated, then it'd go back to Ways. And then Ways, you would decide whether to appropriate whatever the additional monies are at that time. So this would be step one of like a 2-month process. If we put it on hold for a month to come back with additional information, for this, it's not solely financial. You guys are asking for the drain commissioner to come in and speak to it, and then it gives us time to get the figures for how much the assessments actually cost last year, which was our first year doing that structure like Ingham County has, where you only build the residents who had affected parcels. So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question.
Yes, thank you.
Marcus, will you be able to, you said you was coming next month to give the annual report?
Yep.
Okay. Is that, I mean, will you be able to come up with the figures like Commissioner Toomey, working with the admin, I guess, or on your own to figure out what the cost savings compared to what you're asking for the restructure?
I should be able to have some sort of an idea for you guys, yes.
Okay, I'd appreciate that. Commissioner Toomey, then DeRosa.
And I just wanted to add a quick point of clarification on that as well. I fully expect and I'm aware that, let's say $50,000, we're not going to directly save $50,000 in fees or whatever. I just want to see what that is, because I know there's a lot of non-monetary things that this position will offer as well, right? So, but that is a factor in what I want to use to make my decision. So I just wanted to clarify that. I don't expect you to come back and tell me we're going to save $200,000 or whatever. And then on top of that as well, I agree with your sentiment. We want to serve the constituents the best we can. While I do share many of pretty much all the grievances that have been said today about how, how some things are being run, I just want to be clear that this is irrespective of that to me, and I just want to make sure that the value we're getting out of this position is worthwhile for the taxpayer dollars. So that's really all it is. So thank you.
Okay. Commissioner DeRosa.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And to be clear, my motion is that this restructuring request be put on hold, and it's irrespective of Mr. Toomey's request as to the numbers. But my motion is that this request for restructuring be put on hold until such time that Richard Wagner is here to plead the case, not Marcus in his stead.
I'll support that.
Thank you.
I got a motion to support. In discussion, go ahead, Commissioner Whitaker, sorry about that.
I mean, I feel like the same thing with the annual report. Like, Marcus probably can speak to it best, but that seems like something that the Drain Commission should have to come to us and speak to. And I don't know if we have authority to require that, but it seems to me that's not an unrealistic expectation, that he should be here for some of those essential things once or twice a year kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think statutorily that can be delegated to the deputy, but historically, I think, and I've only been here since 2023, I've seen Richard attend some of those as well, and then we previously through the budget did all departments come in and share what the department does, and so he made those as well, but I certainly understand, it goes without saying, I understand we hear from Marcus every month, so I don't want to jump in the pit of that. I will say that just generally, we do a lot of work with the drain office, us, the treasurer's office. It's a little trifecta of finance, right? Treasurer's office is responsible for cash flows. The drain office is responsible for the infrastructure and managing those projects, and then the accounting components rest in our office. So I'd say from an administrative standpoint, totally understand where you guys are at. I'm supportive in the sense that sometimes these elected offices have to be stable regardless who's in an elected position. I think this takes us a step closer. Ideally, Barbara's point, we could have filled maybe that administrator position last year, and we would have been in a better position now, but where we're at today is we've identified, probably should have filled that role. So I appreciate all the discussion around it, and respect the deliberations you all have to go through to get to an outcome. So, thank you.
Commissioner Toomey.
Yeah, I guess I'll just offer one more point of clarification regarding Commissioner Grosch's motion that I supported. I would say that we can choose not to vote on anything for any reason, as far as, our abilities here at this board. And I don't need to see the Drain Commissioner here every month. I think Marcus does a fantastic job, and I think I'll be ready to make a decision when I see the numbers and the information that Marcus brings to us next month. That being said, when you're asking for something as big as a department restructuring, I would personally like to use the tools at our disposal to have that official come in and tell us why, right? And so this is one of those tools at our disposal, and I'm more than happy if this doesn't work with his schedule. I'm happy to do a special meeting, whatever, right? I think the Drain Commissioner's office is very important. I want to make sure that it's being taken care of appropriately, and I would like to talk to the head of that office, and this is one of the tools we can use to do that. So that's the only reason I'm supportive of it. I'd like to hear that, and I'm more than happy to make a special meeting or whatever else, obviously at the will of the chair. But, I think it would be really important to hear that from the department head. So, thank you.
Okay, no further discussion. Oh, yes, Commissioner Hanson.
Thank you, Marcus, for coming in. Appreciate the work that you've done in my drain district in the past and everything. And I think one of the problems we really have in the drain is the drain codes that hopefully are going to be brought up to date to that probably works on that should have been done over the years, and it hadn't through legislation. And hopefully some of that stuff will help improve the operation itself in drain districts and counties and stuff too. Probably one of the problems, I'm not an effective speaker, and probably Mr. Wagner is probably in the same boat I am, that not wanting to get up in front of the public and actually speak. I'm better at talking to someone one-on-one or something. And so I don't know if that's a fear that he might have in doing that and coming before the board, but we would appreciate him coming to speak. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Commissioner. I would just like to say, I also would like to say thank you, Marcus. And I would like to say to the, no, I will, all right, we got a motion. I won't go down that road anymore. All right, so it's been so the motion, yep, Commissioner Drosha stated it, but it was to table this, and his request or his demands in this motion are that the Drain Commissioner come in, present it, and then we also see the numbers, right, that we agreed that you could come up with next month when you come to give your annual, when the drain office comes to give their annual report, we'll be able to see the cost savings. So that was the motion, right? I had a second. We had vigorous discussion. Seeing no more discussion, I will call all in favor, signify with aye.
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 Opposed? Okay. I know, Marcus, do you have anything else you would like to say?
Yeah, it's getting to the point where I'm almost tired of bringing stuff down here to you guys because it's a wash every time and we want to talk about the same thing every time. I try and work with you guys fully and work through anything and everything that we can. I try and have conversations with who I can. I try and help who I can. Again, Nicole reached out to me and we had a great conversation. I think she found it to be very helpful and found me and the office to be very helpful in figuring out the matters she reached out to me on. again, it's discouraging to even come down here knowing that I'm gonna get shot down every time. And I put a lot of work into this. I put a lot of time into this with Ben. I did speak a lot with Mr. Wagner about this and go over each proposal and everything that was going on with it. And then come down here and waste my time. I mean, as the proposal kind of lays out, we're short-staffed to begin with. So for me to come down here and devote this time and do this and it just be for nothing, like, that's discouraging, and I don't honestly have time for that.
Well, I would like to thank you.
So,
Even though you feel discouraged about coming down here, I'd like to thank you for coming down here, okay?
You should talk to your boss about that.
Can I say one more thing?
Yes, Commissioner Christensen.
Again, it's not you. I think every commissioner in here could agree with me, I would hope. We want to see Richard. We've begged him to come to meetings. We've begged him to speak up. I've tried to call him. I've texted. I've called the office. I've never spoke to the man. I've said this before. I've been in this seat since January of '25. I've never once spoke to the man. I've never met him, never shook his hand, nothing.
you were in the office one day when he was in there.
When I came in the office, the gal told me he was not in, and so I left. There was a gal sitting at a desk, that was it. I don't
Got
even
one
know what
more.
her name is,
We got one more.
so.
Commissioner Toomey.
And here is my personal promise, I'm not going to speak for anybody else, if, you know, the drain commissioner can come in and present this to us, I will stick strictly to agenda items, which will include this restructuring. I would love to talk to him about 100 different things, but I promise you that I will stick to the agenda item. I genuinely, like you said, I am not opposed to this. I just need more information, and I want to hear from the department head about his department. So that's all I'm at. I promise you, I'll stick to the agenda item only, and, you know,
Okay.
I want business to be done. I want to move things forward, and I want to come to the best decision that we can for the residents and the department. I need that additional information. I need to talk to the department head, and, you know, the other 100 things I have can wait. But I think this is a good first step if he can come in and talk about this proposal, so.
I appreciate that, thank you.
Thank you very much, Marcus. All right, we're going to move on to item 13, miscellaneous.
So I was just going to give a legislative
yes.
update about the drain. So I did want to let everybody
Drain
know,
code.
discussions have been happening at the state level. I know we've gotten feedback from residents that have come here under public comment, and a lot of chatter online about the drain code. So we've been a big proponent of pushing that, and the great news is a bipartisan group with Angela Whitwer, Tom Kanies, I think, of Clare County, or Clare Coons, thank you, and a few others have sponsored a bunch of different bills that will take a stab at trying to bring the code up. I say that because this is one legislative cycle. We probably need 10 years of this amount of work happening every single cycle. And anyway, but the first batch that they are trying to fight with to get passed right now over some reservations and pushback from the Drain Commissioners Association at the state level is requiring that a cost estimate for a project be sent to the County Road Commission for review, and they make a recommendation about the reasonableness of the cost, since road commissions have an engineering staff, trying to loop them into the process to kind of have that third-party review, extending the timeline to appeal drain projects from 10 days to 60 days. And that's at the front end if enough people in your area sign a petition that you have 60 days. The other is extending the timeline to appeal the apportionment and assessment costs of a drain project. That's on the back end after all the assessment and work has been done, saying this is what our computation of cost is going to be, moving that from 10 to 60 days, requiring a drain commissioner to provide all landowners in the drainage district with a preliminary cost estimate of a drain project. Some of this will probably not get through, right? So, but this is the time, if you've been having discussions with state legislators, continue having those conversations because this is what they're leading to. providing for performance audits of the operation of the Drain Commissioner's Office every 2 years or sooner at the request of local municipalities. That would, if passed, give you all the ability to say, we'd like a performance audit once every 2 years, right? Modifying requirements for notices on drain products to include a map as well as a list of impacted addresses within the drainage district. So those are some of the elements. I think there was one other one I don't see in this summary, but it would be to try to better apportion where the signatures have to come from. So if you have a drainage district, you can't get them all from one block. You have to have a portion from around, so that way you don't just get one neighborhood pulling everybody into a drainage project. Anyway, so those are some of the pieces that have been happening at the state level. We have been party to those discussions and highlighting the issue and explaining that these drains have the ability to bankrupt townships, property owners, businesses, and so not having an appeal process or it's difficult. And anyway, so that's what these discussions have been about, is how do we add additional room for greater conversation around the necessity of drain infrastructure in Michigan. So those bills are working their way through the House and Senate.
Thank you very much for that update, Ben.
Yep.
All right, 13? Oh, yes, Commissioner.
Back to those bills that you just went over, we can't even get a millage passed. So how would we ever be able to do those expensive infrastructure projects? It's a really, okay, I hate this word, complicated subject, because if we send out all the paperwork to all the people whose backyards don't flood, whose basements don't flood, whatever, and then we tell them, and then they fill the junior high at Waverly, and then we don't do it. This is why we have the problem we have, because nobody wanted to do it when the first prices were starting to surface, 30 years ago, whatever, when they wanted to build subdivisions instead of cornfields. So I don't know how to solve it. I hear the words that you're repeating, but at some point we have to build highways, we have to build transit systems, we have to build drains, and we have to supply healthy water. And everything costs, and everybody somehow benefits from infrastructure.
And in that vein, if hypothetically all of these pass, I can promise you Marcus is going to come and say, I need additional help. That is a lot of work, realistically, because you are right. You're asking to build out the capacity to have additional levels of communication, additional thresholds for people to, like you said. But I think the objective for the legislators that I've talked to is about making sure someone can't say, well, I didn't know. For some reason, that tends to be the default. Even though mailers go out, we have records of who signed. Sometimes you have a property owner who literally signed saying they had no idea the project was there, and it's like, well, isn't this your signature, right? It's really just adding in there, like, you're spot on. If Bank Intercounty Drain had been done in the 70s, it would have been expensive, but it would have been at a fraction of the cost it is today. Because at the time, there was no will to do that. And now we paved over the whole area, so not only are we having to rip up infrastructure to put in this stuff, we're having to buy properties that previously may have just been vacant farmland, right? Anyway, so there's a cost to deferring infrastructure. I think the intention of these bills, though, is just to open the lines of communication and do it in a way to where people feel more involved and they feel like there's more accountability. And I do see a hand in the audience if,
Ben,
yeah.
one of the things is that a bill could go through to make it so that real estate companies also have to be responsible before they tell the people, and make it so it's like 12 months out or something like that, once you're aware of a special assessment of any kind, okay? So that when it's done and sold, then the person expects the bill to come. You know what I'm saying? And right now it isn't. And nobody wants to talk about it. And I do have my real estate license, so I don't tell, but I'm telling you that it is a surprise to people on limited budgets because we all know when we buy houses, no matter how old you are, you're expecting a payment of X amount, and you're just the public and doing their job. So they're not going to have the expertise to look behind the scenes. They're just not.
My Realtors Association was definitely at the table providing feedback of what they they thought. Yeah, but again, this is a one year, I think, for the over time, even if only one or two of these pass. And you know, you ask the Drain Commissioners Association, they probably have recommendations too that they'd like to see as someone who works in it. So anyway, I think it's just a set of laws that relatively went unchanged for a very long time. I mean, I think we just updated the maintenance for the first time like 2 years ago. It was the same rate since like 1952. We just updated it to $10,000 per mile of line, right? So anyway, this isn't casting blame. It's just, it's harder and harder for residents to navigate the complexity of the drain code.
Commissioner Drosha.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. To Commissioner Wright's initial point, this last weekend, I think, was a perfect example of why that person 4 or 5 miles away from a county drain should appreciate the work of the Drain Commission. I mean, I don't know how many roads we had washed out in Eaton County, and certainly the just over the road flooding and yard flooding and everything else, but here we are a week later, almost a week later, and a lot of that water's gone. So, I mean, I understand the bank's drain frustration. I agree that it should have been done 40 years ago, 50 years ago. Some of the stuff that's plotted out there never should have been built. Some of the roads shouldn't have been built, but that's development. But, I mean, when you look at this, what took place here in the last week with what we had 7 inches of rain in some spots, and there were roads that were impassable and cars stranded, and today you can drive down that same street and almost see no evidence that there was a flood. That goes to how effective our drains are, but the wording behind it is what's hurting us. It's so archaic, and some of it's just downright stupid, the way it's been continued on through the last 50, 60 years, whatever. So I agree. I mean, yeah, we're way past due. And I think the unfortunate thing is about this and why the bills are so important today is that there were people that were oblivious to this stuff that were in legislation that said, it's working, why bother? And it's come to this point today where, well, it's not working. But yet I could go on. So I'll just leave it there. Yeah, I agree. We're way past due. Thank you.
Commissioner Toomey.
I just wanted to say thank you to Commissioner Christensen for being 3 commissioners today and on the camera here. And for me and Commissioner Drosha, I will be attributing every comment we made today to you when people ask. So thank you.
All right, so are we done with the drain? Okay, miscellaneous. All right, public comment. Since we only have one gentleman in the audience, please come up and keep your comment. Oh, yeah, Marcus could speak as a public if you want, but.
I just wanted to speak on the proposed drain bills that are out there.
Oh, okay.
One thing that I don't think anybody's realizing is there's nothing to address the funding. So I think that should be a conversation with legislators. And something that needs to be noted is there's funding for parks, there's funding for roads, water, sewer. There's no funding for drains. So as much as they're trying to help and benefit the public, they're not addressing the funding mechanism or lack thereof. So I think that needs to have a closer look there.
Well, it's going to make the drains more expensive.
Yep.
Because the taxpayers are going to have to pay for that extra 60 days or that extra engineering assessment or anything. But, all right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we're on to item 11, public comment. If you'd like to come up, please keep it within 3 minutes, sir.
I could talk for an hour, everybody knows that. You just said in a nutshell what I believe in. And I'm not judging you either. I know I've talked to you in the office before, and I know I've gone several times to, I've called Richard or gone in the office, he's not there. And I can tell you this, he's not abiding by the law, he's not abiding by the drain code, he's not abiding by his oath of office. And I'll say it in public, and I think half the community would agree with me, or probably more. I've talked about this several times. I pay for the McCreary and the Dillon drains. And I've said it online, and I've said it to 100 people, but I'll say it again because, and I don't, it might not make a bit of difference in here, but I want to make sure the public knows that I'm here advocating for myself and these families. I probably answered, this is a low-end estimate, at least 50, to not answered to them, but discussed this with them about they owe assessments anywhere from $10,000 to $50,000 and higher. And their yards are flooded. Their pole barns are flooded. Their basements are flooded. And how do you justify that? How does anyone justify that? You're paying for something, in some cases it's on their property. In my case, it's not on my property at all. The Dillon or the McCreary drains are not on my property. And my house, they scraped up all the farmland and put it on a huge hill when they built my house. It's on a huge hill. I would never have an issue with flooding at my direct house. But my backyard's a lake. My backyard is a lake as of last week. And I'm paying $40,000, folks. And what I think is, legislators and even some people in this room, from when I started talking about all this and advocating for these families, I think people have lost touch. They say, oh, we're going to build a $30 million drain project. Yeah, Jim Billy will pay 50 grand. That farmer over there, he'll pay 60. And this girl over here who's trying to, a single mom trying to raise a couple teens, I know of this case. Her bill is $30,000. She's trying to make ends meet. She's living on a shoestring. And what do you tell her? But all these people, they knew I've been advocating about this, so they either call me or said something online or whatever. You know, I've talked to 40, 50 people or more. And Mr. Wagner, I don't have anything against him personally. He's doing what he can do. He's doing what he wants to do. He was elected. He can do what he wants. I don't have anything, a vendetta against him at all. But he's incompetent. I'll tell you that. He's not fit for the job. And I think I'm probably, I don't know, I'm going to talk to some people about getting a petition. And it may go somewhere, it may not. But somebody has to do it. And somebody has to be and feel for these families. That you're living, that you must have parents, you must have kids. Do you want them to get socked with a $40,000 bill? I mean, what if they came in, mom or dad? I'm a dad. If my daughter came home with that, I'd say, hey, well we're going to fight that. What do you mean? For something that's not even on your property? For something that's not benefiting your property? And they're charging you. The key word here, folks, is infrastructure. If they build a huge bridge a mile away from your house, like a $40 million bridge, and they send you something in the mail that you owe $200,000 toward it, aren't you going to ask questions? Are you going to say, well, I guess that's just my share. I'm going to just roll with it. No, I would hope you would ask questions. I wouldn't want that for you. I wouldn't want that for your families, your daughters, your parents, whatever it is. And I'm advocating for all these families, and I want it on record. I'm probably not going to get anywhere here. And it's a crying shame. It's a crying shame that it got this far without somebody asking questions many, 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 many years ago, saying you can't charge. The farmer near me owes $200,000. $200,000 for drain assessments. What's he going to leave to his kids? Or what did he farm? Third generation farmer. What's he going to leave his? Is he going to sell a farm and pay a drain assessment? And in my case, I'm on a 40, they call it, I'm on a fixed income. Where am I going to find 40 grand? I saved my whole life for what I have in place. I'm very fortunate. I've had things in place for my retirement. Now I receive a bill for $40,000 for something not in my property, something I didn't vote on, something I didn't ask for. And where I saw her speech on TV, on YouTube or whatever, and one of the things that she's talking about, there's an elephant in the room here, folks. She's saying, well, we're going to make it easier for the appeal thing and a longer time you have to go talk about this with the drain commissioner. Communication is very, very important, I understand. But like I say, the elephant in the room is the bill, the amount. Nobody gets, how many people come in here with, and it costs you $900 or $1,000, I think. I can't remember. I don't remember. You people probably know. To come and appeal this. All he's going to do is sign the bottom line, no. And you walk out of here without $1,000 more on top of your $40,000 bill.
Thank you, sir.
So, and the fact that, one more thing, Ben said today, he says, well, if you get a windfall of some kind, your parents, whatever, somebody passed away, you're in some kind of a windfall. That would help pay your bill. That would help pay your tab. That's not the way it's supposed to be, Ben. That $40,000, if I would get it, is supposed to go to my grandkids for their college fund.
Thank you very much, sir.
Well, thank you, kind of.
All right. That moves us on to 15, adjourn. Do I got a motion? All right. All in favor?